Welcome to the September 25th edition of the Weekly Recap. I'm Matt Wacker. Looking back at that, one thing remains the same. My hair is still out of control. Welcome back to the final Weekly Recap. Researchers at Missouri S&T are helping to revolutionize the future of infrastructure inspection and maintenance. The lab, called the Inspire Center, is funded primarily by the Federal Department of Transportation and through the University Transportation Center programs. The 5-year project is focused on developing robotics technology to reduce the cost, time, and risk of inspecting and repairing bridges and other infrastructure. We spoke with Dr. Ginda Chen, who leads the program.
INSPIRE stands for Inspecting and Preserving Infrastructure through Robotic Exploration. The mission of this whole 5-year program is to actually transform or revolutionize the current practice for bridge and tunnel inspection and repair. The current practice for bridge inspection requires a heavy lift equipment, like truck you see when you're driving on highway. And so by developing advanced technology like a robot as a platform, you can save the rental fee and the transportation fee of a heavy lift equipment, and also expedite the process to complete inspection, so saving money. If you have a river crossing bridges, like the bridge crossing Mississippi River, my understanding is that most of the time, if you use current practice, it will take you probably a week or 10 days to finish inspection. But in the future, we can send a batch of 10, 20, or 30 robots to do inspection at the same time in different parts. We also can basically reduce the risk for inspector and passenger on the roadway, in the sense we don't have to send engineer climbing on the large cable on bridges. So we can send a robot climbing around the cable and take image, or using some special device to understand, just like X-ray, like a scan human body, we can also carry a device to scan the structure component. So in that way, you don't have to send engineer to a high risk environment. And also, it will reduce the risk with passenger on the bridge, because when this platform is available, robot can do the inspection on the side of a bridge instead of going above bridge. And we're also trying to do that with underwater, for example. So we can inspect the whole bridge system with minimal or no interruption to traffic in the future. Right now, we have a few first prototype of a robot. We are supposed to have this integrated testing facility by next spring 2020, so that we can send the team to do the beta test or the first round. And our goal is at the end of this 5-year, for example, we will have a second prototype, highlight the more mature technology. Well, I have to emphasize one thing though, because this advanced technology does not mean to replace the engineer's wisdom. So all the decisions still have to made by engineers. But we will have a significant workforce development effort made at the center to help engineers to get used to this new advanced technology. The outcome from this center will be practical and with high likelihood that engineer can use this technology in the future.
As we linger over thoughts of the past 3.5 years, our fondest memories are of the people who welcomed us into their homes and businesses and shared with us their passions. We had the opportunity to showcase the diversity of the people and products that nurture our lives here in mid-Missouri, and we're proud to have framed their stories for this show. In our final feature, meet Martin Weber and Lynn Deline Weber, who create handcrafted vinars at their distillery in Marthasville.
What exactly is vinars?
Vinars is the Swiss Romansh name for fruit brandy. in Switzerland, if you're in a particular canton where the Romanish live, and that is it's a small group of citizens, and they comprise about 1% of the population, and Swiss Romanish is their native language. And that area, that canton of Graubünden, is where my husband is from. Vinaars is 100% fruit. It is unaged, so it never touches wood. You don't have any of the influences of the wood barrel or the char inside the wood barrel. And it is dry. In Switzerland, if you have a fruit tree, you have a mash tank. It's that simple.
Martin, why is handcrafting so important for this particular type of spirit?
I think it starts, with the quality of the process. And when you get the fruit and you clean your fruit and you sort it out and you only take, the really ripe and, quality fruit. And that's really where the handcraft comes in, that when we do our mash, it's the highest quality fruit that you can put in there and really assure, that there is no bad stuff in the mash. The quality is in the mash. That's where really everything starts. Mm-hmm. If you got a great mash and you distill well, you're going to have an excellent product. The whole process, it's kind of a slowed down really process in terms of fermentation and in terms of distilling. The slower you distill, the smaller that the output is of the still, the more taste comes along. Mm-hmm. And when you rush it, you miss out on it. So we don't do that, and that's where really the handcrafted, process comes in.
We sit on about a 20-acre farm, and so what you've got out here are basically, 17 acres under pasture, but the distillery sits inside the horse barn. And so we took 2 rooms from the tack room and the washroom and created a clean room. All right, we're coming in.
Walk me through the process of this, Martin.
This is really the mash, the way it looks when it's fermented, and this mash here, has been, fermenting for a long time, actually 160 days. What we do is, we take it just the way it is, with the solids and everything, and we put it in our still, so we just kind of, pour it in there, and fill the still up. When they're ready to close up, we put, this is called the Lennon, we put that on top of the still. It gets a gasket between it, we bolt it down, and that really seals up the still. And then, we start the heat cycle. So after about 2.5 hours, 3 hours of heating, you reach temperature for, the alcohol to evaporate. So the vapor comes up through the Len arm and then goes through the pipe down into the condenser, and there is a coil in the condenser, and the condenser is full of cold water that we constantly, add on to it, and it overflows. So you always have cool water, which then takes the vapor and condenses it back into a liquid, which then comes out, at the bottom in this jar. And this is, the stripping run, we call it, the first run. We do 2 runs on all the fruits. So you have the first run when you run it through the still. The goal is to get as much out of the mash as you can. And then we distill that a second time, the hearts and the tails together, the spirit run, and then you really clean the product, So this is from the first run. You see it's cloudy, and that's because the tails are in here. So the oils, make it cloudy. Here, you got the real clean spirit, which is just as crystal clear as it can get. Bottling happens right here. I fill every bottle, at the time, and, this is my little gauge, to make sure we fill the bottle to the proper limit. So it's every bottle, 1 bottle at the time.
The first competition we ever entered had gotten a best spirit. And actually, he was back in the United States. My daughter and I were together, and the email came across. And I remember I literally screamed. We just never expected it. I mean, we cleared a coffee house. I think people thought something was wrong. But it was, and I called him and I said, well, Master Distiller, you did it.
Talk about your awards. I know that some of these have won some pretty major awards, some of your spirits.
Well, I think the awards, is, you get your spirit out and, you present it to a group of people, that are going to taste it and compare it, to other fruit brandies or other spirits. It's exciting, to see that, when you do well. And so far, we submitted, quite a few of them, I would say maybe 10 spirits, 10 different occasions, and we nailed pretty much every one of it. So it's very satisfying, to see things coming around and the confirmation that the process that you established actually works.
Talk about community and how important that is to your business and to the economy of the community where you live.
We're in our 5th year of business. We're going into our 4th year of production. And it's important it's here where we call home. When you live out here long enough, you really get a sense of how special this place is. And it's not easy to live out here. I mean, St. Louis is an hour away. Columbia is an hour and a half away. So when you're trying to launch a business in this area, you're also talking about what can we do to keep this thriving, to keep these little villages going. And it is small business people that are committed to an idea, but they're deeply rooted to what these places bring to their lives. And so that's why they're so committed to raising their families out here and creating opportunity. And so to collaborate is second nature. And that's what's fun, because then you brainstorm ideas and there's no idea that you can't go after. It's just a question of, okay, are we willing to try? Not all of them work, but boy, it's a lot of fun. And you learn something every time. Yeah.
How have Vinaars caught on here in America, or particularly here in mid-Missouri?
Yeah, so if you were on the Northeast corridor, up in, say, Maine, New Hampshire, Connecticut, that's where your big orchards are, or if you were on the West Coast, these spirits are very well known there. But here in the Midwest, they're not as well known. And so introducing them in the Midwest has been a bit of a challenge. It's a little bit like pushing a wet noodle up a hill. But we're doing it, and people enjoy the idea of trying to figure out, trying to learn something new. Mm-hmm. And I think where it's starting to get a toehold in this is that when you finish a meal, most people don't want another big glass of wine. They certainly don't want a cocktail, but they want something that will end the meal. And these fruit brandies are a perfect way. They're served in a very small portion. They're also served with, they can be alongside a cheese plate or a charcuterie plate. They can be alongside a coffee. They can even be alongside a dessert. In the European tradition, they're actually served in place of dessert. And most of us are rushing to clear the table, get things put away so we can sit down and enjoy time together. Why not just suspend that moment? Yeah. Just stay in it. A lot of people, that appeals to them. Mm-hmm. They're not, and so if you're looking at the idea of lingering in the moment, of savoring the experience that you're in after a beautiful meal around people you love being around, these spirits are perfect for that because they just kind of slow down time.
We waited to drink the plum till you got here.
Yeah. Hey, here we go.
Before we leave you for the last time, I'd like to bring in my cohort, Leanne. Doesn't get to experience this very often, and I just want to bring her in here and thank her for everything she's done for the recap. Of course, she is the unsung hero, being out there and making all the connections and the interviews and making everything happen for this program. And I thank you both personally and professionally for everything that you've done here.
Thank you, Matt. This is kind of an emotional day for me because this project has meant so much to me. Yeah. And I just want to thank you personally for giving me the opportunity to work with you and with the weekly recap. It's been truly the joy of my life. And I've met people that I never thought I would meet, experience things and learn things that will go with me always. Sure. And for that, I thank you. And I thank you for giving me and Matt and our show the opportunity to come into your lives. It's meant everything to us.
Bring it in. All right.
Okay.
There you have it. This is the end. And until next time, thanks for watching.
Whatever will be. The future's not ours to see.